There's a kind of silence you grow up with in places like that. A silence too thick to break with noise. You feel it more than you hear it, like the weight of something watching you, even when nobody's around. Isaiah didn't know what it was, not at first, but it was there. Always. Welcome to Injustice Browning. I'm Mark Joie. If this story touches something in you, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you've ever felt the weight of silence too. We see you. Isaiah was born in 1964 in a stretch of rural Alabama where the past didn't die. It just dressed itself in new clothes and kept moving. White folks still called it their town, like history hadn't happened, like black people were just lucky to be there, and every black child knew, without ever being told, where they could walk and where they couldn't, who they could look in the eye and who they should never talk back to. Isaiah lived with his parents on a few acres of stubborn red dirt just outside the county line. That land didn't come easy. His great-grandfather ran barefoot through woods and swamps out of Georgia to find it. He settled, built a shack with his hands, and never left. For generations had bled into that soil. It was more than land. It was proof that they existed, that they mattered, that they belonged to something no white man could take away, at least not yet. His father, Elijah, didn't say much. He worked the fields, kept his boots clean, and avoided trouble like it was a snake coiled in the grass. He'd tell Isaiah, "Don't make noise, boy. Don't give him no reason." But Isaiah didn't understand what that meant. Give who a reason for what? He'd ask questions about the men who stared along at the store, about why the sheriff smiled like that every time he passed by, or why his mama's hand shook when she counted her change in front of a white cashier. His daddy would just say, "Some things you learn slow, son, or you don't make it." Their town had one main street, a courthouse with peeling paint, and a gas station that everyone used but not everyone lingered at. If you were black, you pumped quick, eyes down, engine running, and school. The school flew the Confederate flag right next to the American one, like they didn't see a difference. The principal called it heritage. Some teachers called it history. Isaiah called it something else, though he didn't say it out loud. What he did say, what he asked about just once, was the tree dot. It stood behind their house, near the fence line. Huge, old. Its branches curved like reaching arms, bark split, deep with age. Isaiah liked to sit under it sometimes, where the breeze hit different. One day, when he was about 9, he looked up at the thick limb stretching out above him and asked, "Daddy, what kind of tree is that?" Elijah didn't answer. He was trimming the hedges nearby, and for a second, it looked like he didn't hear. But Isaiah knew better. His father stopped moving, hands still, breathing hard. Then he wiped his brow, dropped the shears, and walked straight inside. Didn't say a word. Left the hedge half cut. Isaiah sat there alone under that tree for a long time, looking up at it. Something about it didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt heavy. He didn't ask again. By 10, he was already helping in the fields. By 11, he'd learned how to answer white folks with yes, sir, and no, ma'am, no matter the tone they used. His mother taught him how to iron a shirt perfectly, because ain't no one gonna give you grace if you look messy. His father taught him how to stand just far enough from white men so they didn't feel threatened, but close enough so they didn't think he was hiding something, and even then, none of it guaranteed safety. It just bought time. Isaiah didn't like the fear. He didn't understand it. He was smart, strong, kind. Why should he be the one walking on eggshells? But he listened, because he loved his father, because that silence passed down like a name was all he'd ever known, and deep in the back of his young mind, that tree waited, watching, rooted in something nobody dared say out loud. Not yet. 13 hit different for Isaiah. It wasn't a birthday with cake or gifts or celebration. It was the year the world stopped pretending, the year the mask slipped off this place and showed him exactly what it was: ugly, bold, unapologetic. It started small. A classroom insult. A white boy named Travis leaned across his desk during math, smirked like he was sharing a joke, and said it like it was nothing, like it was his to give out. "What you doing here, boy? This ain't Africa." Then the word, that word, the one everybody knew, even if nobody ever taught it. Isaiah sat there, frozen, his pencil snapped in half in his hand. He looked at the teacher, Mr. Hargrove, white, older, sunburned from weekends hunting. He looked right at Isaiah, didn't say a thing, just cleared his throat and told the class to turn to page 94. That night at dinner, Isaiah tried to Bring it up. His mother went quiet. His father chewed slower, didn't look up from his plate. Keep your head down, he muttered. That boy just looking for trouble. Why, he ain't get in trouble, Isaiah said. I didn't do nothing. Elijah set his fork down real careful. Exactly, he said. And that was the end of it. Then came the thing with his cousin Ray, 17, loud, always smiling. He went into the general store and bought a can of soda and a bag of nails for his daddy. Forgot the receipt on the counter. A deputy stopped him before he got to his bike, charged him with theft, said he matched the description. Nobody said what description that was. They kept Ray in the county jail 3 days before letting him go. No apology, no record cleared, just a warning. Next time, he might not be so lucky. Isaiah overheard the grown-ups whispering that night. Said the clans still had people in town. Said they were quiet, now organized. Wore suits, now sheets. Owned land, ran businesses. But the hatred, it never moved out. Just found new ways to hide. Isaiah couldn't sleep. The walls felt too thin, the air too still. He looked out the window at that old oak tree and felt his stomach tighten. Something about the way the branches curved it didn't look like shelter anymore. It looked like arms, holding something. The day it all changed. It wasn't planned. Isaiah had stayed late at school to help clean up the gym. On his way out, he saw them. 3 of them, Travis, and 2 others he didn't recognize. Lean, fast, and grinning wide like they were about to play a game. They started following him, then running. He dropped his books and sprinted, heart in his throat, legs burning. He didn't even realize where he was going until he saw the edge of his yard, the tree, that damn tree. They caught him there, pushed him to the ground. One held him down while the other laughed. Travis pulled something shiny from his pocket, a small blade. Isaiah fought, but he wasn't strong enough yet. Not against 3. Not that day. The blade touched his chest. Cold, then hot. A sharp pain cut just under his collarbone. Not deep, but deep enough. When they ran off, laughing, he looked down. An X, sloppy, ugly, marked into his skin like a warning or a claim. He stumbled inside, his shirt stuck to his chest with blood. His father met him at the door. Didn't ask what happened. Just sat him down, poured a cap full of rubbing alcohol, and cleaned the wound with a steady hand. Isaiah flinched, not just from the pain, but from the silence. Elijah didn't speak, didn't comfort, didn't cry, just walked away when it was done. Isaiah sat alone in the kitchen, his chest burning, his blood drying. He looked out the window at the tree again. It didn't seem ancient anymore. It seemed tired, like it had seen this before, too many times. And Isaiah, he felt something crack open inside. Not fear, not yet. Something slower, something sharper, something that refused to stay quiet much longer. There's a kind of quiet that don't come from peace. It comes from pain too old to scream anymore. Isaiah didn't talk much after the cut healed. He stopped asking his father why things were the way they were. Stopped questioning the stares, the rules, the fear. He learned to wear silence like a second skin. Same way his daddy wore his work shirt, tired, stained, always buttoned up to the throat. But silence doesn't mean you stop feeling. It just means you stop letting anybody hear it. Elijah had carried that silence his whole life. He was 7 when it settled on him for good. It was a Sunday morning, sun hanging low, when 3 men in brown uniforms knocked on their door. Said his daddy owed taxes, said the land had been seized. Elijah's mother begged, cried, showed them the receipts. One man laughed. Another grabbed his daddy by the arm and dragged him down the porch steps like a sack of corn. Elijah never forgot the way the dust kicked up behind the tires as they drove off. They never saw the land again. It didn't matter that it was paid for. Didn't matter that the man had fought in the war. Didn't matter that the land was the only thing holding their family together. They lost it in an afternoon, that same year. Elijah's uncle, his mama's brother, was accused of looking too long at a white woman near the market. He never got a trial, never even got a full sentence out. Just disappeared one night. They found him the next morning, hanging from that oak tree behind their house. No note, no names, just silence. Elijah was a boy, standing barefoot in the grass, watching men cut his uncle down like he was something broken that needed cleaning up. His mama screamed until her throat gave out. The sheriff told them to move along, called it a tragedy, then told the papers it was suicide. Nobody questioned it. Nobody ever did. So Elijah learned, not from books, Not from school, from the eyes of his mother, from the stiff back of his father, from the rope scars that no one ever spoke of, but everyone carried. Keep your head down. Keep your mouth shut. Work. Survived out back in the present. Isaiah watched his father every day. From the moment the sun broke the sky, Elijah was moving, plowing, sowing, fixing things that never seemed to stay fixed. He never talked about his pain, never told stories, never explained the scars, just wore long sleeves and looked past everything. Isaiah followed that rhythm. He woke early, worked hard, learned not to speak unless spoken to. But something inside him had shifted. It wasn't fear. It wasn't shame. It was more like pressure building under the surface, a tightness in the chest that didn't go away, like he was holding in a scream too big for his mouth. He'd walk past a tree sometimes, tracing that old bark with his fingers. He could feel the history in it, the weight, the memory. It wasn't just a tree, not to him, not anymore. It was something else, something that had witnessed too much dot, and yet his father never looked at it, never mentioned it. He'd pass it like it was invisible. Isaiah started to do the same, not because he forgot, but because pretending was easier than feeling that fire grow. He didn't talk about the boys who chased him. He didn't speak about the scar on his chest, didn't say how his hands trembled at night. He just worked, ate, slept, grew taller, grew quieter, but the silence didn't bring him peace. It made him restless, because deep down, Isaiah knew what his father didn't want to say out loud. That tree was still waiting, and so was the storm inside him. By 17, Isaiah stood like a man, broad shoulders, steady hands, eyes older than they should have been. He didn't talk much, but you could feel something strong living under his skin, something waiting. He knew the land better than his own face, could tell you the shape of every fence post, every patch of earth that held good water. He could plant with one hand and fix a plow with the other. Folks called him quiet, called him sharp. Some white folks called him too proud, like standing tall as a threat. It was summer when it happened. The air was heavy that year. Rain had come late, heat too early. The crops were slow, but steady, corn rising up like hope from the ground. It was the first season Isaiah felt like maybe, just maybe, they'd make enough to breathe. Then came the lie. They said Isaiah was seen talking to a white girl after church, that he smiled at her, stood to close, maybe said something sweet. Nobody saw it for real. Nobody had proof. But in that town, whispers traveled faster than truth, and they were just as deadly. Late one night, headlights cut through the trees, pickups, engines low. No horns, no talk, just men. Fire spilled out from bottles wrapped in rags. The edge of the field lit up like dry paper. Flames danced through the rows like it had been waiting for this moment. Isaiah ran barefoot into the blaze with a shovel, his father right behind him with a hose that spit more smoke than water. They tried. God, they tried. But fire don't care about effort. It eats what it wants. And it was hungry. By sunrise, half the crop was gone. Ash covered their boots. Smoke clung to their skin. Isaiah sat in the dirt, coughing, eyes red not from the smoke, but from something deeper, something hotter. Elijah stood over the charred earth, not saying a word. Then he dropped to his knees like the weight of the fire had finally cracked him. For the first time in Isaiah's life, his father wept, not loud, not wild, but the kind of weeping that comes from somewhere buried too deep to dig out. I was 10, he said, voice dry as the dust. He was hanging there, swaying. Isaiah turned, confused. Your great uncle, my mama's brother, they hung him, right there, that tree. Said he smiled at a white woman, just smiled. Isaiah's mouth went dry. His chest felt tight. Elijah kept going. My mama screamed so hard she passed out. I saw the blood run down his leg. The rope dug into his neck. Sheriff said it was self-inflicted. He was 23. He paused, looked toward the tree. I never told you, didn't see the point. I thought if I kept you quiet, if I kept you small, maybe they'd leave you alone. Isaiah stared at him, heart pounding. He thought about the scar on his chest, the way the boys had laughed, the fire, the silence, the damn tree, and something shifted inside him. He stood, chest heaving, and looked up at that white oak. It didn't look tired anymore. It looked alive, complicit, still holding the memory of the rope. Isaiah didn't cry, didn't yell. He just breathed in the smoke, stared through the heat waves, and made a vow, not out loud, but deep in his blood. He would never live quiet again, not for safety, not for shame, not even for love. That land had been taken once, then almost taken again, but this time, he'd fight, even if it killed him. Isaiah wasn't trying to start a war. He just wanted to build something that would last, something good, something that could grow roots deeper than hate. He took what little was left from the last harvest and poured it into blueprints. A simple structure, open space, books, a kitchen, a place for black kids to learn, to be safe, to be seen, a place where the weight of silence didn't reach. He called it a community center, but really, it was a lighthouse. The application went in, paperwork filed, every I dotted, every T crossed. It should have been routine, but in that county, nothing ever was. First came the zoning board, said the structure would disrupt the rural integrity of the area. Next, a sudden noise complaint from a neighbor 2 miles down the road. Then, an environmental review ordered by someone who wouldn't put their name on the form, claiming Isaiah's plan might disturb local wildlife. That land had been farmed for 100 years, but now they cared about birds. Isaiah read every rejection with his jaw locked tight. They weren't saying no to a building. They were saying no to him. He appealed, got signatures, rallied every black church in the county. Folks came out in support. Older ones, remembering what it meant to be kept out, pushed back, told not here. Isaiah gave speeches, wrote letters to the editor, called in a favor to a friend at the local college. Then the news showed up. Not national, just a crew from the regional station, but it was enough to make people look. Cameras always make power nervous. That's when the threat came. A plain envelope in the mailbox. No stamp. Just slid in quiet one morning like a whisper. Inside, a note, typed on cheap paper. Stop digging, or we dig for you. No name, no signature, no need. Isaiah didn't show his mama, didn't tell the neighbors. He just sat on the porch, turning that piece of paper over in his hand. While the sun dipped low and lit the sky in red, he knew what it meant. Same message his uncle got. Same warning his cousin Ray had seen in a deputy's eyes. He was stepping outside the lines, and they hated that more than anything. But this time, he didn't flinch. He folded the paper once, neat, like it was just a receipt, slipped it into a drawer. Then he got up, grabbed his boots, and walked straight out to the edge of the property where the tree stood. The same tree that had watched too many suffer in silence. He looked it dead in the face, and he spoke. I ain't scared of you no more, or them, or this land. This land don't belong to fear. It belongs to us. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. That night, he went back to work, hammered boards into the ground with his own hands, poured concrete with sweat dripping off his chin. Every nail he drove, every wall he raised, was a refusal, a protest, a promise. He knew they might come. He knew they might try again, but Isaiah had already made peace with that. Fire had taken half his crop, but it couldn't touch what he'd built inside. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about every black child who ever had to walk home afraid, and this time, they'd have a place that didn't belong to fear. It was a warm Sunday when Isaiah called the town together, not in the courthouse, not in a church basement, but right there beneath the old oak tree, the one that had watched generations bow their heads. Now it was time to lift them. Word had spread fast, not just through black neighborhoods, but through every pocket of the county where people had long memories and tired hearts. Folks came from miles away, farmers, pastors, teachers, grandmothers with folding chairs and little boys in 2 big shirts. They didn't come for a show. They came for truth. Isaiah stood at the base of that tree, wearing the same work shirt his father used to wear, sleeves rolled up, collar open. Behind him, the frame of the new community center stood half-built, windows not yet in, but the foundation was solid. Just like him, he cleared his throat, looked out at the crowd, and spoke. With no microphone, my father told me not to speak, told me to keep my head down, and I did, for a while. But the truth, he paused. The truth don't care how quiet you are. It still finds you, and it still burns. He told them everything. About the boys who cut him, about the fire, about the scar on his chest, and the silence that followed it, about his uncle, about the blood on this land, the history wrapped in branches above them. He said it out loud, with no fear, with no shame. And nobody turned away. Then came the sound of tires on gravel, a slow crawl. A police cruiser pulled up near the edge of the crowd. The current sheriff stepped out. Not the same man from back then, but the same badge, the same slow walk, the same look in his eyes. He didn't say a word, just stood with his arms crossed, watching, waiting. Isaiah looked right at him and didn't flinch. He stared that man down, not with hate, not even anger, just strength. The kind of strength that comes from knowing the difference between power and fear. The crowd turned. Some went quiet, but Isaiah, he just kept talking, because this time they weren't going to be scared off their own land. That day changed everything. The permit got approved 3 weeks later. No apology. No explanation. Just a single line stamped approved, and the work began. The community center rose from the dirt like a promise kept. The walls held books. The floors echoed with children's voices. People came to learn, to eat, to heal, to remember. And outside, the tree still stood, but now it had something beneath it. A plaque, bronze, simple, firm. It didn't say lynching tree. It didn't say crime scene. It said, "We are still here. They tried to bury us, but we were roots." Isaiah's father lived to see the ribbon cut. He didn't say much, just nodded, eyes wet. When they walked past the tree that afternoon, he paused for the first time in years. He touched the bark gently. Then he whispered, "You did good, son." Elijah passed quietly a few months later. No pain, no fear, just rest. Isaiah buried him on the hill, next to his mother, where the sunset hit just right. Years passed. Isaiah grew older, grayer at the temples. His hands stayed rough, his back a little bent, but his voice never weakened again. He raised his own children on that same soil, taught them how to plant, how to build, how to speak. He told them the stories his father couldn't say out loud. He didn't hide the past. He gave it to them straight. So they'd know the cost of silence and the power of breaking it. One morning, long after the first frost of winter, Isaiah walked alone to the tree. No crowds. No cameras. Just him. He stood beneath the limbs that once held terror and now held memory. He looked up, then placed his hand on the trunk. He didn't flinch. He just breathed, long and slow. The wind moved through the leaves like a hush, not a fear, but a peace. The tree hadn't changed, but he had, and that was enough.